were these guys, were they established or known at that point, or are they still up and coming?
Peter was just starting, Pt.2. It was quite early. We sold 2 paintings. The first thing we ever sold was we sold 2 of his paintings from that show for, it was £11,000 for a pair. They were quite big, like £5,000 each. So that's how early it was.
Mm.
And they came, I think he was doing residency in Vienna, and they came over, they were still wet. So but he was, yeah, I think it was probably David Blandy's first show from art school. That was a great thing. That was like, still on the territory as it now. It was video games, but edited, so it's just the landscape scenes, the characters removed. So you just had the mountains or the forests of fighting games. Yeah, and through that we made a catalogue. So we just learned loads of, like, about commissioning essays, getting a designer, printing, getting a book distributed. Then we toured that show that show started at, was it called Westland Place? It was where Jamie Oliver's first restaurant was in London, that building. And then we toured it to Duncan of Jordanstone in Dundee. And yeah, remade the shop there. That was a...
Sorry, David, are you thinking about being a gallerist at this point, or are you an artist that's putting on a show?
That may have overlapped with Zwemmer. Can't remember now. Might have been just before Zwemmer.
What happened? Can you tell us about Zwemmer?
Yeah, so you were at the Whitechapel bookshop, and then how does Zwemmer come into it?
The bookshop at the Whitechapel was owned by a chain of bookstores called Zwemmer. So they started in 1929 as a gallery in just on the edge of Soho and Covent Garden, just off Charing Cross Road. And they made the first exhibition of Surrealist painting. They showed Picasso, the painting that's now in the Tate. Just an amazing legacy. They showed the young British artists of that time, like Henry Moore and Eric Ravilius, and Sutherland. I think maybe Bacon showed there. A really incredible track record. But they were importing exhibition catalogues from Europe to, I think it was the first place, in 1929, the first place you could get international exhibition catalogues. It was the first time a lot of artists in London were seeing any reproductions of surrealism or cubism or whatever. So the bookshop side of that grew and eventually took, in the 60s, the gallery closed. So later on, when I was working there, it got bought out by another company, and they asked me how I was getting on, and I said I was bored. But I could make exhibitions upstairs. There was like a storeroom that was...
So this is in the Lichfield Street.
Yeah. So that was... Yeah, it's just a little empty upstairs room that I... Basically, they said I could use that room to make exhibitions, but I couldn't get any extra time or money, so I had to do it during my lunch hour, basically. So I'd be running up and down the stairs. Yeah. Actually, I spent a lot of time in the bar next door. Well, there was a wine bar.
So you jumped into this. I mean, you haven't had any experience working in a gallery or for a gallery. I think that's interesting. So this was really your starting point, but how did you know what to do?
I didn't at all. I had no clue.
Was that to your advantage or your disadvantage?
I don't know. Probably both. I think it could have been a lot easier if I'd known a little bit what I was doing, but then I might not have done it. It was hard to say. I was totally naive and totally idealistic, which I probably still am. It didn't get me.
And this is, David, this is like your own, this is your baby, it's your project, you're going, it's totally your conception, you're going to run the program, you're going to do everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, completely. I had this idea that other galleries, I'd show artists that were working with other galleries so they could take over all the day-to-day stuff. I'd just be providing a room and making an exhibition. There was no idea of doing any sales or any extras. It was just, here's a little room in the very centre of London, attached to a bookshop that people in the art world already know. It's probably a good place to make exhibitions.
So how did this like lunchtime after work project go?
It was good. It was fun. First show I did was Richard Wood's, who later went on to do big shows in Copenhagen with. So I think it was Richard's first floor, first logo, it was called. So that first show was just a floor, nothing on the walls. It was just an empty room, a floor of, it's like a cartoon wooden floor almost. It's like painted to look like a wooden floor. And then we left, we had Tiger beer for the opening, and he wanted to leave that in there. It was fantastic.
Leave all the empty bottles, you mean?
No, just the boxes
Yeah.
with the Tiger logo. And then that show, the opening was mobbed, totally packed. And then that show got reviewed in Time Out with a photo and full review. And then the next show was done with Modern Art, Stuart Shave, Modern Art. So they kind of helped with a lot of logistics. Richard came in and installed the floor. Super easy.
Did they help with the PR as well? And how did Time Out come about?
They were just about. I think it was maybe Martin Coomer who wrote it. But Martin's just smart. They just want to know. They were like us. They were just people who loved seeing exhibitions and doing stuff. So they'd turn up and hear about stuff and write about it. Then the next show was Dan Coombs, who showed with The Approach. Then Stefan Nikolaev, Bulgarian artist who showed with the Listen. And that show, I sat in there quite a lot. That was horrible. It was like, we borrowed a big projector screen from Douglas Gordon. And it was this film of a goldfish in a small goldfish tank. And the tank was the same proportions as the screen, so it could never leave the screen. And then he just dropped in red dye over time. So the screen just filled up red until you couldn't see the fish. And that was on a loop, a 5-minute loop, all day, every day. So I was just sat in the dark in this room with the kind of repetitive video thing on constantly. And then from that, because all these shows got reviewed and they got interest, I thought maybe now I could do something with friends of mine who work with other galleries and see if we could do something together. So I did a show with a friend I was at Bath with, Roderick Harris. He just graduated from the Royal College. There was one big painting, like one guy 160 or something. About 6 little paintings like this. 4, I think, little drawings, tiny little drawings. And we hung that in the afternoon. And then we were covered in paint. I had long hair, baseball cap, covered in paint. And it's like late summer. We were sitting outside next door, outside the bar, so by the gallery door, drinking, having a drink, and then Jay Joplin came around the corner from White Cube and tried to get into the gallery door. And I said, sorry, you're trying to get into the shop, the bookshop or the gallery. And he said, I want to see the exhibition in the gallery. I said, sorry, but it doesn't open until tomorrow. And he said, that's why I'm here today. But, so we went up, showed him the show. He loved it. Then he said, okay, I'll take it. I was like, what do you mean? I'll buy it all. And I said, sorry, Jay, a lot of it's already sold. The big one's sold, and those 3 little ones are sold, and 2 of the drawings are sold, but you can buy the rest. And then he was like, what do you mean it's sold? He said, it doesn't open till tomorrow. I'm the first person here. That's why I came early. I said, sorry, we had some clients in at lunch, and they bought that work. And then he said this amazing line, which was, we'll call them and tell them they can't have it, but don't tell them that it's Jay Joplin who wants it. Otherwise, they'll want it even more. And I was like, sorry, Jay, I'm very loyal to my clients. I can't do that.
Who were his clients, David?
They didn't exist. I've never sold anything in my life. So
why did you do that then? Why did you not sell to him?
it felt instinctively, it felt like he shouldn't be allowed to have all of it. Felt too much power somehow.
Was there a kind of an entitlement about it that sort of rankled?
No, not at all. He deserved it. Like, he's totally earned it. But it just felt wrong for the artist to have all the work in one person's hands.
Was the artist there when you were negotiating this?
Yeah.
Well, were you paying attention to him? How was he responding?
I think he was a bit befuddled. I can't remember fully. He was probably a bit drunk. But yeah, I just winged it, just totally winged it. And then my girlfriend at the time was working as an intern at Victoria Mirror. So the next day she went to work and said, Jay Joplin just went to David's gallery and bought half the show of this young unknown artist. So then they came and bought the rest, which was good.
Incredible. Did you foresee that? So when you started this negotiation and you denied him the available work, did you foresee this? Did you know what you were going to do? Did you have a plan?
Yeah, especially when he said, don't tell them who wants it or they'll want it more.
Yeah.
I knew that was good leverage. I knew that it's important to get some, because then it will help me solve the others.
Yeah.
I kind of had a feeling that would not, like, I didn't work it out, it just felt sort of logical.
David, I've got a question for you. So the arrangement you got with Zwemmer at the time is that you're not receiving any percentage of the profits from the sales anyway, right?
Nothing. No.
Right. So they're getting. Do you feel like, in retrospect, if it had been your money that you were gambling with, as it were, by like saying, no, these pictures are sold and you can't have them, so would you have acted differently, do you think, if it had been your profits you were playing with?
Oh, that's a good question. I've never had any money, so I don't really think about it. Like, when I opened my first gallery proper, I had the money for the first month's rent. And after that, if the first show didn't sell, there wouldn't be a second show.
Right.
So everything's always been on the wing and a prayer.
Okay.
Okay, so can we bridge that gap then? So you're still at Zwemmer. The shows are going amazingly well. There's a lot of heat. How long do you stay there for?
It was about 18 months, maybe. Yeah, something like that. So then I did a show with Henry Krokatsis, who had first invited us to do this landscape group show. So Henry made this amazing shed, like a bent wood shed with a perfect oak parquet floor inside that took like 10 days to build on the roof. Then the outside was covered in rubber, the same color as the walls, so it was kind of invisible. It was amazing. And I sold that to a museum, the Contemporary Art Society came and bought it for Walsall Museum. Then did a show of Masakatsu Kondo, amazing Japanese painter. That sold. But yeah, all the money was going to the bookshop. I just got my bookshop wages still. Then I did a show based on, quite often I'd run over to Waddington's on Cork Street to look at their left-hand room, where there'd always be an amazing Patrick Caulfield and a Joseph Albers and a tea straw in, maybe an Ernst. Just like spectacular stuff that wasn't really curated. It was like stock. It was really like art dealers' stock. So I made an exhibition based on that was called a group exhibition of small paintings based on the left-hand room at Waddington. And that didn't sell anything. Even though it was like the most commercial show I've done away. And the manager of the bookshop called me in and had this really weird meeting where she said, you can't keep doing these exhibitions with sheds and stuff. You need to do these more commercial exhibitions like this painting show. And I said, but the shed sold for quite a lot of money and you got that money. And the painting show hasn't sold anything. You just mean you want me to make more conservative shows, not more commercial shows. And she said I was arguing about semantics. And I said, no, I'm arguing about your profits. And then I quit on the spot. Yeah.
Is it okay? Is it okay to achieve critical success, which is what you're doing? Everyone's coming down, major collectors, major gallerists, really strong artists. Is it okay to achieve critical success and commercial success?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is that the name of the game?
Depends which game.
Game you were playing.
Yeah, I realised later on, kind of when I was closing my gallery, that I was sold art to make exhibitions. I didn't make exhibitions to sell art. I always had it the other way around. I wanted to spend my time with art and artists and not have a proper job and just spend my life in that world. And because I'm not from money, the only way I could do it was by making exhibitions and selling them. So I wasn't, yeah, it was, and then if I ever did make money, I'd just make a much more expensive exhibition. It's like stupidly ambitious and just pump all the money back into that.